And Brandon, let's close the podcast like we always do. It's weird because if you're on YouTube, this is the first thing you're seeing. So you're like, guys, close the podcast. What are you doing? This is the first thing. But if you're listening on audio services, podcast services around the world, this is the end of the podcast. What we do is we always make our picks. How we do it is we do it straight pick 'em. We don't do it against the spread. If you guys want us to do against the spread, let us know for next year, and then we may do that if you guys want. But picking all the top 25 games, then giving our non-top 25 game, one for Brandon, one for myself, that we will pick. Before we get into everything, Brandon, I had a really bad week this week. I did not have a good weekend.
You did.
Where I went 11-10. Thank you, FAU, for not losing to Old Dominion and keeping me with a positive record. However, you went 16-5. So that means I was 2 games ahead of you. I am now 3 games behind you. I am 101-28, respectable pick'em record. You are now 104-25. We'll see if I get any chances to. The one thing I have learned though, if you pick Oklahoma State, I'm just gonna pick the opposite.
I don't want to pick any more of their games.
I mean, every time you pick them, they lose, and every time you don't pick them, they win. So I'm just gonna go opposite of that one for you the rest of the time. But let's get into it. The first one is actually a Friday action. Some Friday action in the American. We've got number 23, Southern Florida, 5-0 on the year with Blake Barnett as their quarterback, taking on 1-4 Tulsa. You going with the Bulls in this one? Are we both going with the Bulls in this one?
Going with South Florida. Going with South Florida to win on the road.
Brandon's like, I am not picking Tulsa, not going with Tulsa, going to go with the Bulls to get the win on the road. Then we've got our Saturday games. The first one, a Big Ten matchup. Ohio State in Columbus playing host to the Golden Gophers. The Buckeyes are almost a 30-point favorite, but can the Gophers row the boat in this one, or are they just going to be stalled with one paddle and going in a circle?
Well, Indiana did exactly what I thought that they would do last week. They would come up, they would show a little bit of poise and give them a little bit of a scare in the first quarter, second quarter, and then drift away. So I'm going to go with Ohio State in this one. I don't think Minnesota is going to be able to do that. I think Ohio State should roll at home.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the same thing. Got to go with OSU in this one. Minnesota, I think, does not have the firepower, does not have the same type of team to keep up with in Ohio State. The next one, actually the next two, we've got SEC action. First one, Florida, 5-1, coming off a big win. They will go into Nashville, Tennessee to play the Vanderbilt Commodores. I'm personally going to gonna roll with the Gators to chomp up and get them an easy meal against the Commodore.
Florida's offense didn't look good last week, but it didn't need to. The defense looked phenomenal with a big interception to kind of close out the game. Big 2 interceptions to close out the game. One that was returned for a touchdown, another one that sealed it. I think Florida does the same thing this week on the road at Vandy. The offense, it's going to be the Achilles heel for Florida, but the defense is certainly going to keep them alive throughout this year. Florida wins at Vandy.
Then the next one, SEC action, Tennessee going into Auburn. Does Auburn bounce back after a tough loss against the Bulldogs from Mississippi State?
What a disappointment that was last week. I mean, a great job by Mississippi State, but Auburn was never in that game. You just never felt like Auburn was going to win. You never felt like they were going to get the comeback going or anything like that, because when they scored a couple of points, Mississippi State scored more points. This is against a really poor Tennessee team this year. The game's at Jordan-Hare. I'm going to go with Auburn. I know that's probably the safe pick, but I think Auburn does bounce back this week.
Well, and one question, because I'm filling out the spreadsheet as we did it. Did you pick Florida against Vanderbilt?
Yes.
Okay. I just had to double check. Next one, we do have your team, one of your team, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, playing host to the Pitt Panthers. Do the Fighting Irish go 7-0?
I think Notre Dame should. They think they should take care of business. They're at home. Pittsburgh is not the team that you certainly want to be losing to. They have 3 losses on the year. They're 3-3.
They've been known to upset around this time.
They just beat Syracuse, but losses before that to UCF, and they lost to North Carolina. I think if Notre Dame does not win this one, you can take that first segment that we did and throw it out the window and never allow anyone to look at it ever again.
And I forgot, I don't think I picked a winner with the last one. I am going with Auburn for Tennessee Auburn, and I'm going with Notre Dame for this one. So far, you and I have had no differences throughout, and I don't think we'll have a difference on this one, but who will see? Georgia LSU, we just talked about it in the third segment. Georgia only a touchdown favorite. I am actually going to go with the Bulldogs to win in Baton Rouge. Georgia will get the win, stay as the number 2 team.
Game's at Tiger Stadium. LSU's at home. They return home after a tough loss last week, 27-19 to Florida. This Georgia team, they're good. They give up a lot of yards. They don't give up a lot of points. I think LSU is going to find it to be difficult to score points this week against Georgia. It's going to be hard to slow them down. I'm going to go with the Bulldogs as well.
I had a feel. I was like, all right, this is the first one where I'm like, is Brandon going to pick against me? Because I had a feeling in that third segment that you were kind of leaning towards the purple and gold and not the red and black of Georgia. So far, we are clean through.
Talk to me next week.
This one might be one where we do differ. Who are you going with in a Pac-12 matchup? The conference that Brandon in the first segment said doesn't matter. They're done. Not going to make the playoffs. Washington at Oregon. Washington is only a 3-point favorite in Eugene.
So here's what I'll tell you is that Washington really was... It was a disappointing win, I think you could say the least, in what they did this past weekend against UCLA, just a bumbling UCLA team. 31-24, the final score there. They go on the road, like you said, Ricky, to play Oregon this week. Oregon is a team that they've been good. They've played well. I look back to that Stanford game, and I think, oh my gosh, what was wrong with you guys? I think Washington brings it this week on the road. I'm going to go with the Huskies.
I am going to be on the other side. I am hitting the upset special button in this one. Eugene, Oregon will be the site for the Ducks to get the win. This was a Washington team, does not look like the Washington team we know in the past. Jake Browning does not look like the same Jake Browning that we've seen in the past. It is in Eugene. The Ducks came out on fire against the Stanford Cardinal in Eugene. Should have won that game, but they choked it away in, I don't even want to say typical fashion because they're usually not chokers. They just kind of choked it away. I'm going with the Ducks to get the win at home against the Huskies.
I'd like you to not do that anymore.
What, the choking sound?
Yeah.
Well, hey, don't choke, and then I won't do the choking sound. How about the next one? Penn State in Happy Valley to take on Michigan State. You gonna take the risky bet and go with the Spartan?
No, not at all. Not at all. There's no chance Michigan State wins this game.
After last week,
hopefully they don't, because if they do, it'll just be rerun of. There's no chance Michigan State winning this game. No, Penn State, they're at home. This is where they like to play. This is where they like to play. I think that this is a game that if Penn State loses, it's very embarrassing.
Well, I am going to go with Penn State as well because after last week, Michigan State, I picked you to beat Northwestern. I thought, oh, you're at home. Northwestern hasn't looked that good. Should be a good way for me to gain a game or keep a game on Brandon. I might never pick the Sparty again this year, but I'll probably pick them again. We don't know. The only reason they're back in the pick'em is because Penn State kept them in the pick'em because Michigan State ain't ranked. How about a team that many are saying are back on the map? Texas getting a big win this past week against Oklahoma. They now come back home to Austin and will play host to the Baylor Bears.
I'm going to go with Texas here, but Texas could have some big problems if they don't figure out some things on defense because it wasn't good. Yes, they got the win 48-45, but they were up 21 points, and it got back to the point where they were tied 45-45. This was late. So if Texas, and I'm not just talking for this Baylor game, but I'm talking about them going forward, they're not going to be back if they don't figure some things out there. But this week, they're playing Baylor. They're at home. I think everything's kind of in their favor to get the win.
Yeah, I am going to go with Texas as well. This is a team, although I do not think they'll be college football playoff bound, it was nice for them to get the win, and I should have believed in them more and picked them to beat the Sooners like I should have and wanted to, but I chickened out like the little chicken I am. Maybe why it made me so nervous. Maybe I shouldn't have eaten chicken before the podcast last week. What about the next one? UCF, top 10 team in the country, going into Memphis, Tennessee to play the Tigers.
Got to go with UCF. Last year, a year ago, this would have been a game that I think people looked at and went, this could be an interesting game. Memphis is not the same team they were last year. Got to go with the Knights.
God, I want UCF to keep winning because I want the discussion of them in the playoff. Just the discussion of them in the playoff. I love the argument. I love the discussion. I don't know if I would want them in a playoff, though, although it would be cool to see. I am going to go and pick them, though, against Memphis, Tennessee, in order to kind of keep them going. I don't know why I said against Memphis, Tennessee. Against the Memphis Tigers in this one.
The Memphis, Tennessee
road.
Tigers.
And then we go back to the SEC for the next two. We've got Texas A&M playing South Carolina. Texas A&M, they're only a 2.5-point favorite. I am going to ride with the Aggies, though, and Jimbo Fisher to get the win over, I almost said Dabo, against, why am I blanking on his name? He used to be head coach of Florida, Musgrave, and the South Carolina Gamecocks.
So South Carolina was supposed to be this team that was going to surprise everyone in the SEC this year, and they were going to look really good and everything like that, and it's been everything but that. They got a win this past week against Mizzou, last-second win. A win is a win is a win. They didn't look good the week before. They barely looked good last week. Texas A&M with a big win at home last week against Kentucky. I got to go with the Aggies.
And then speaking of Mizzou, they will be in Tuscaloosa to play the juggernaut, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Brandon, not only what you think about this game, what do you think about Nick Saban's comments kind of ripping the student section for not showing up to home games? Because if you were in Alabama, would you go to Alabama, Mizzou?
Every single one.
Okay.
Every single one, baby. It's SEC football. How would you not?
I don't know.
You have something better to do?
That's what he was
Everyone
ripping.
Cancels out their Saturday plans for this. For this every day. Every Saturday. This is, and not just Alabama, SEC football. This is what you do. Then you go to church. Alabama. All day, Alabama.
I'm going to go with Bama also. You took Texas A&M, right?
I did.
Okay. How about the next one? I am still not sure who I am going to take for this one. You got West Virginia and then the dreaded team that usually likes to spoil your Big 12 picks, the Iowa State Cyclones.
So last week, West Virginia playing a Kansas Jayhawk team, and it's, Kansas. Will Grier didn't look great. 3 turnovers. Not good. But this is still a good West Virginia team. There's still a lot of firepower in that offense. I have seen Iowa State this year be able to keep up in these games. They were able to keep up with certainly Oklahoma State, and they won. They were able to keep up with Oklahoma. It made it close, lost by 10. Iowa State is at home this week. But West Virginia still gets the win. Yeah,
for me, this is one where I am making this pick based off of our records. And that is solely what it is. I am now 3 games behind you, and I need to catch up some ground, so I cannot bear to lose any. So this is one, although I could see Iowa State getting the win in this one, I need to play smart from here on out, and I can't lose one. So because of the record, I'm going to pick West Virginia, so if we lose, we both lose. But I could see the Cyclones getting the upset in this one over the Mountaineers.
You're being like a politician.
I am.
You're being like a politician. You're playing a dirty game. Playing a dirty game.
Now that I'm behind, notice how when I was up, all willy-nilly throwing these ones out there.
Yeah.
Now that I'm a little bit down, I got to play it a little bit more strategically, we're playing a little game of strategy.
A little strategery.
A little strategery as we're going into the next one. That was actually a really good George W. Bush. How about Miami, Virginia? Who gets the win in this one? Hurricanes or the Cavs?
Got to go with Miami. They won by just 1 point, but you're playing Virginia.
Yeah, they're only a 6-point favorite, but I got to go with the Miami, the turnover chain to get the win. Then a game we talked about earlier on the podcast. This will be the ABC primetime game of the week. 15 Wisconsin, 12 Michigan. I am going to go with the home team. Like I mentioned in that segment, Wisconsin barely wins in Ann Arbor. This one is in Ann Arbor. Wolverines over the Badgers.
I'm going with Michigan. I think that Wolverine defense, I don't know if Wisconsin's going to be able to do enough against this Michigan team that's been on a roll, that's been playing well, that has a lot of confidence, and being at home. And especially if Shea Patterson's able to get some things going, Michigan gets the win in this one, but it could very well be a close game.
And then there was one more ranked one. We've got USC playing host to Colorado. Who you got?
I'm going to have to go with Colorado in this one. USC, they are at home. They haven't looked that great this season. I think that a lot of people could say they've been a disappointment. They just beat Arizona on the road 24-20. It was a close game. The week before that, it was a close game at home to Washington State. Colorado's been playing some pretty good football, and I see no reason why the Buffaloes can't go and get the win.
Yeah, I'm going to be different on you than this one. I'm going to go with USC. They are at home. They have looked better than they did earlier in the year. This is a prime game for them to take one, and this would now mean after these... I'll actually wait till the last one to say what I was going to say. How about your non-top 25 game of the week? Who you got?
Non-top 25 game of the week. Didn't pick them last week. I will this week. Virginia Tech over North Carolina.
Ooh, I thought about that one, but I didn't because I'm going to make one of our loyal patrons, Matt, quite upset with this one. Do you know what I'm going to go with, Brandon?
You're going to go with Illinois over Purdue.
I'm going to go with Illinois over Purdue. Illinois is a team that has looked... Although we lost big to Penn State, we looked really good in that first half. We looked good this week. Ricky Smalling, I believe, with another touchdown. Maybe might have had two, I believe. Against Rutgers. We probably should have won. Actually, I know we should have won that South Florida game. This should be a team that is 4-1 on the year, not just 3-2. We are going to shock the world and get the win over Purdue. Purdue's a team, yeah, they're on a 2-game win streak. Yeah, they beat Boston College. Yeah, they beat Nebraska. But this is a team that is susceptible to the upset, and I'm going to go with Illinois. Watch. Now that I did that, Virginia Tech is going to win. Illinois is going to lose. And then I will lose a game on you in the end. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think about anything we talked about on the podcast. And if you're on YouTube, let us know what your picks are for the week and what games you are looking forward to this weekend. I want to thank you guys for checking out the podcast. A little bit of housekeeping here at the end. Make sure to support us on Patreon. That is patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. You can also support us by getting an MVP t-shirt that is down below in the store link. You can also get it at mostvaluablepodcast.com where you can catch MVP each and every day. And then last but not least, want to thank the 2 new reviews that we got. I forgot your names, but I read them off at the beginning of the show, so you can go back to check that out. But thank you guys for the new reviews. If you guys could please go to iTunes, give the Primetime Podcast a 5-star rating if you please, and then let us know why you like listening to the podcast each and every week. Want to thank you guys for watching on YouTube. Want to thank you guys for checking us out on podcast services around the world. And as always, have a good day, everybody.